Okay, good evening. I'd like to call the Anacortes City Council meeting of December 4th, 2023 to order. Mr. Franciac, could you take the roll, please?
Mr. Carter,
Present.
Mr. Young, Mr. Walters, Ms. Cleveland McGrath,
Here.
Ms. Moulton, Mr. McDougall,
Here.
Ms. Huvick.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, I know we
Mayor
just
Miller.
made a quorum. Oh, okay, Ms. Cleveland McGrath and then Mr. Carter. Ms. Cleveland McGrath.
I would just like to excuse the three council members, Young, Walters, and Moulton from today's meeting.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Ms. Cleveland McGrath, a second by Mr. Carter to excuse Mr. Young, Walters, and Moulton from tonight's meeting. And Mr. Young wanted me to pass that his mom did pass away over the weekend, so that's why he's not here. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, first item is announcements and committee reports, item 3. So I have a number of announcements. I'll try to go through quickly. So first big announcements, congratulations to Anacortes High School football Seahawks. It was a historic win as 2A state champions, and if you notice, my voice is not quite back to what it normally is because I think I was there with half, if not probably the whole city of Anacortes cheering on the Seahawks. So we're super proud of our Travis coach, the rest of the coaching staff, the team, of course, and all the support for the team. And with that, you will notice consent agenda item 5E was added to tonight's agenda, a community championship football celebration. So parade Sunday, December 10th, 11 a.m. So that's the plan for that. Also, other good stuff coming up. Ben Root Skate Park ribbon cutting this Thursday, December 7th at 3 p.m. Also this week, I don't want anybody to be alarmed, although we'll wait till the weather, but in cooperation with the Anacortes Downtown Alliance, we'll be taking the arch down, the historic Anacortes Arch, for some repairs and updates. So thank you to Dakota Creek for their generous equipment donation, but of course we'll be working around the weather. So if you see that coming down, it's all okay. Wonderland Walk this Friday and Saturday, December 8th and 9th at Washington Park. That's 5 to 8 p.m. Always a good time. Also celebrate the season holiday family fair at the Port Transit Shed Saturday and Sunday, 9th and 10th. This is in a student marketplace and gingerbread house contest Sunday at noon. Lighted Boat Parade, if you may have seen some information about that on the 2nd, that's actually has been moved to December 16th at 6 p.m. So I think that's all I have. And we're on to the Public Works Committee did not meet today. And next up is 3B Personnel Committee, and I will call on Ms. Cleveland McGrath because we're a little short-staffed there as well. Ms. Cleveland McGrath.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you for our personnel committee meeting. We had Ms. Shu and Mayor Miller and myself because everyone else didn't quite make it. They had other things going on. So we talked a little bit about recruiting updates. The number of folks hired so far this year, both for regular positions and temporary student positions. That was a nice update. The great thing is the fact that for the first time in years, the police department is at 28 commissioned officers, including the police chief, which is our goal for 2023. So in 2024, we can start in on the additional 5 that were approved. But that is a huge accomplishment. A lot of other municipalities have had a hard time filling those vacancies. So well done to HR and to our police department for doing that so well, and also not having signing bonuses, because that's hasn't been as effective as some municipalities have thought they would be. So well done. Fire is doing quite well. They have hired for a number of their positions that were approved in the levy. I think about 7 out of 8 have been filled, so they are well on the way, but they're fire, so you know you're going to fill those easier, more quickly. And the other great news is the fact that we've got some open positions, but we're getting some good applicants. But the fact that we've heard from a number of constituents, and then also from the Parks Department, the uptick of use of our ACFL has been a concern, of having some kind of a police presence or city presence, just to kind of keep things safe and just aware, since it is 3,000 acres of our city. So it looks like, since we've got a fully staffed police department, that this upcoming summer, our SRO, which is the police officer that is in the schools during the school year, will be able to then go out in the summertime, on the weekends, and whenever it's kind of busy and nice out, and have a presence out there. So I think that's great for everyone involved. And so that's just another great thing that it's nice to celebrate. Then we talked a little bit about the HR department, the budget for 2024. It looks like we might have a little extra money that we don't need, that's budgeted in, so that's always exciting, we can talk about. And then we talked a little about NeoGov software, which is just part of the recruiting application process that is forward-facing, so they're continuing to work on that. What other things? And then finally, we talked about the performance appraisal process. There's a new format that's been rolled out. So it's just nice to know that things are continuing on their way in the HR department. And we will see more about that, I think, at the rest of the meeting. So thank you.
Okay, any other announcements or committee reports that I might have missed? Okay, on to our public comment. This is
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
I forgot, I should say something. I think Ms. Hubick and I attended the North Star meeting.
Thank you, good call. Yep.
Right, on Wednesday, it was at McIntyre Hall. We had a number of stakeholders. The fire chief was there, our community paramedic was there, among other folks. I'm not going to list them all, but it was a great opportunity for all of the county commissioners, a number of service providers, a number of state level representatives, and then also all of our council members from across the county to come together and get an update on what North Star has been doing over the last 6 months, and kind of what their goals are in the future. I would say it was a lot of cheerleading about the fact that we're trying to work together and have a cohesive approach to things. There's still a lot to work out, but I do want to say thank you to the county for providing that opportunity. It's kind of hard when it's right after Thanksgiving to get everyone there, so we didn't have as many council members there as we would like to, but again, I appreciate it, and it was nice to get to talk to other commissioners and then also other council members and get their feedback about how they're trying to address housing issues and social issues. So hopefully we get another update from them, maybe a county representative to come talk to council, so that the public can have an update about what is going on, because it's a pretty large endeavor, and it's good as long as to have everyone on board.
Thank you for that reminder, and I did notice you left me out of that attendance because my speaking part of that wasn't not that memorable, but it was on. I talked about crisis and co-response as part of that, and again, North Star. Yeah, there's definitely a lot. I'm part of the leadership group for North Star, but just the fact that we're kind of working together as a county is somewhat unique. We're still trying to communicate really the goals and the mission and the accomplishments, so we'll continue that communication. But thank you for that report. Any other reports? Okay, now we're on to item 4, which is public comment. This is an opportunity for any member of the public that wishes to address the council on anything that is not on our agenda tonight. So I have one person signed up for public comment, and 3 minutes is our rule here, but we won't start until you get talking. And I've got Michael Schimmerhorn. The topic is lawsuit, and just state your name and the city you live in for the record, please.
My name is Michael Schimmerhorn. I live in Mount Vernon, Washington right now.
Okay, you're on.
Yeah, in 2019, I was a Washington State licensed healthcare provider, licensed, bonded, and insured, and had been a cannabis activist for over 20 years. And to that extent, I testified in Congress this year in February and March on 2 panels. One, to eliminate the tax for cannabis patients who are medically authorized. And the second one, which did pass, was arrest protection for medical cannabis patients. In that instance, I testified before Washington State legislation, and those laws were either moved forward or passed. This isn't my first time doing that. I was a member of the American Cannabis Medical Reform Board, and we authored 2 HBs and 4 SBs, which are House bills and Senate bills, that made it all the way to the governor's office with only 3 abstaining votes. So 4 of them he vetoed, 2 are still in consideration. I have, in my own house at one time, had a Washington State licensed medical doctor who authorized cannabis in our house. I also worked in 3 other doctors' offices, and of the 30,000 cannabis patients in the state of Washington, the offices I've been involved have authorized 3,000, so it's roughly 10%. I'm a care provider at the Suburban Propane building, and in 2019 we experienced 5 robberies, burglaries, caught on camera for over $100,000. They were done by Tamara O'Connor. I took that videotape and gave it to the Anacortes police office. And on the 5th burglary, 4 times in 20 days, I ended up on August 20th, I went to the Anacortes police station on a Sunday night to file a complaint against the officers who wouldn't show up to our facility, which is also a fuel storage and transfer facility, hazmat stage 2, tier 2, federal hazardous site. So in any event, they broke in and left it all open, and I needed the police to come there so that I could close it up and get the insurance taken care of. This is the 5th time, so I got the rundown really well. I'm not going to be able to make this in the time allotted. That's up to you guys how you want to hear this out. After the 5th burglary, I went to the police station on a Sunday night, picked up the phone and said, I want to file a complaint against the officers who did not show up to investigate the 5th burglary at my facility. This is also on the same day that I was with our state senator in Bellingham at a cannabis event. One which I got in an argument with a lot of people.
So, Mr. Schimmerhorn, we do have your written comments here, and
I'm mad at you, sir. And I really feel that you've did a disservice to this community, and because of you, I'm forced to sue the city of Anacortes for $2 million. And I think my time is more important than the 3 minutes allotted here to talk about a lawsuit of that nature. And when I called you up and told you to do a due process investigation, you didn't.
well aware of the lawsuit and
Yes,
the status of
I'm
the
not
lawsuit.
done talking, sir.
Well,
And when I called the Anacortes city attorney on a Thursday and submitted my complaint to have Captain Fuller investigated for not fielding my complaints when I came to the mayor's office 2 times and left my ID at the reception desk and at the Parks and Recs desk, my identification with my phone number. Captain Fuller still hasn't returned to me. This is 2023. I tried to attempt to file 3 complaints against the Anacortes police officers 3 times, twice in the mayor's office, once at the police station.
Very aware of your
When
complaints.
I
and-
left the mayor's office,
Okay.
they broke my foot, hip, and shoulder.
The courts have all of this information.
No, they don't.
Okay, well,
You're lying, sir.
Okay,
Do
well-
not misrepresent facts that are not in
So-
your possession.
So you're disrupting.
They don't have
you're-
this, sir.
Sir, you're disrupting this meeting. And
No, you're
and-
lying to me.
okay,
If you'd like me to stop,
okay,
I can
your-
stop.
Yeah, your time is done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I do have another document. This
You
is
can-
the video surveillance
You
footage
can-
of the 5 burglaries that the Anacortes Police Department stated
Okay, you
that
can,
I did.
you can leave it, leave it with the clerk. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Is there anybody else? Okay, thank you. Okay. Sir, I've respectfully asked you, your time's up, and you agreed. Okay. Okay. Okay, anybody else wish to address the council on anything that's not on our agenda? And I've got a few folks with their hands raised online. So I'll work with, I'll start with, Mir Rosenbaum, and if you could state your name and city, please. And 3 minutes. Can you hear us, Amir Rosenbaum, if I'm saying that correctly? You should be unmuted, and we can't hear you. Yeah, hands up, and we've got you unmuted. Try it again. All right, well, apologies for that technical issue. Of course, you can submit any comments in writing to the City of Anacortes. Next, I'll try IRM Guard. See if that works.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, so 3 minutes to address the council. Please state your name and the city that you live in.
Fantastic. My name is Irmgard Huber. I live in Anacortes. Can I start speaking?
Yep, go ahead, and your time's going. 3 minutes, please.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. I had this whole thing prepared to say here, and then I heard that gentleman in person speak, and it breaks my heart to feel like he's not being listened to. I find it kind of crazy that as city council, you should be, speaking and helping your citizens, and it feels like they're not being helped. And I know that we're allowed 3 minutes, but he was speaking about something so personal and dear. And not only do I feel like you're not listening to him, but I mean, certainly there are certain topics that should get more than 3 minutes. I mean, he was hurt, and it doesn't feel like anyone there really cares. I mean, that poor man. Personally, I feel that if you're serving the public, the first thing you have to do is listen to the public. And when you don't do that, I mean, who are you listening to if not the public? I mean, it's the ADL? I mean, who is it? You're not serving them. Hypothetically, you're voted into office in order to serve that man right there, that man that is sitting there in the auditorium. And from Zoom, I can't see the whole building, but the only person I see in that crowd is him. And as he took time out of his day, having just broke his foot, it cannot be comfortable to walk. And it seems like it's not the first time he's came to you guys. And you just sit there and, well, thank you, your time's done, thank you. He's clearly upset. And it's not like he's upset because the sidewalks aren't paved right or because he has to drive over some potholes. He's upset because he was hurt by government employees. Phones broken. And you have the audacity to tell him, well, 3 minutes, buddy. I mean, does that make sense to anybody? I get this isn't a back and forth thing and it's a testimony thing, but he has he has the proof that it happened, and as people who are serving that man, you just write him off. I find it absolutely disgusting that you're able to live with yourselves after doing that. I, I sincerely hope I, I sincerely hope that whatever ADL script you're going to follow after this is worth it. And I sincerely hope that that man right there, who's listening to the city council not fully even take in what he's saying, visits gtvflyers.com, maybe watches Europa The Last Battle. I hope you guys have the day you deserve. And I hope that man sitting there goes home and has a wonderful night.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, I've got Judy Stroyer, I think, if I'm saying that correctly, but please state your name and city you live in. Can you hear us? Got you unmuted, but we cannot hear you. All right, apologies again for the technical challenges. I'll keep moving through. I've got 5 folks, and that's why we have a time limit. I've got a few other people that want to speak. So one more time, Judy Stroyer. Okay, let's try Noah Levine. Noah Levine, if you can hear us, state your name, make sure we can get it for the record, and what city you live in. Yeah, we got it. We have to ask, because everybody has to ask on a Zoom meeting, are you muted on your end? Noah Levine. All right, Judy Stroyer, Noah Levine. All right, let's keep going down the list. We'll try TDK Enthusiast. So we're going to have to ask for your name and your city or where you live. Don't need your address. Please check whether you're muted or not. Well, we know at least one of them worked. All right, Rudy Hess.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Okay, I got you loud and clear. And please state your name and where you live.
Fantastic. My name is Rudy Hess. I go by they and them pronouns. I live in Anacortes. And oh my gosh, with the technical difficulties, I'm sorry for you guys that you're having this issue. I hope it gets resolved soon. And for tonight, I would just like to read a little bit of scripture to uplift everyone's spirits. I'm Jewish myself, and in relation to what's going on in global politics and around the world right now, that is somewhat relevant, but not really, because, we're only 0.07% of the world's population all in total. But here in America, we're about 2% of the population. So I'd like to read from the Talmud, which is the Jewish holy book that's in every synagogue in America and every synagogue across the world. And this is an educational piece for those of you who may not know a lot about Judaism outside of what you've seen in popular culture and in the media. So I'm going to start with Yebamoth 98a in the holy book, the Talmud, that us Jews worship and rabbinical councils go and argue and debate. It states in Yebamoth 98a that all non-Jew children are animals. And in Gittin 57a, in the Jewish holy book, the Talmud, it says that Jesus is in hell being boiled in hot excrement. In Sanhedrin 57a, it states that when a Jew murders a non-Jew, there will be no death penalty. Again, Sanhedrin 57a, it also states that when a Jew steals from a non-Jew, he may keep it. In Baba Kama 113a, Jews may use lies or subterfuges to circumvent the non-Jews. In Shabbat 116a, Jews must destroy the books of the Christians, also, known as the New Testament. In Sanhedrin 58b, if a non-Jew hits a Jew, he must be killed. In Yalkut Rabbani Gadol 12b, the souls of non-Jews come from impure spirits and are called pigs. In Baba Metzia 114b, the non-Jews are not human, they are beasts. In Yalkut 245c, extermination of the Christians is a necessary sacrifice. In Zohar 1160a, Jews must always try to deceive Christians. In the book of Zohar, Holdath Noah 63b, when the Messiah comes, Mashiach, every Jew will have 2,800 Goyim slaves. Goyim refers to the non-Jews. We refer to non-Jews as beasts or cattle. And finally, in Liber David 37, to communicate anything to a non-Jew about our religious relations would be equal to the killing of all Jews, for if the non-Jew knew what we teach about them, they would kill us openly. Now, do you really want my group of people being in charge of hate speech in regards to the ADL founded on a child raping, murdering pedophile named Leo Frank who killed Mary Fagan? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll try one more time. TDK enthusiast. You're unmuted. Check that you're unmuted as well. Okay, one more time on Noah Levine. And then we'll have to move on. The council does have a lot of business this evening. You can always submit comments directly to council. City council, I'm looking for the email.
I believe it's why do Jews suck baby penis at
City clerk at
NYC.
cityofanacortes.org. Yep. City, you can always submit public comments, city clerk at cityofanacortes.org. And again, apologize for the technical issue. Okay, we're going to have to move on from the online folks.
When do we speak about why Jews?
All right. Any member of the audience here in person like to testify?
The Holocaust.
Okay, that was interesting, and we're going to move on to our consent agenda items. Consent agenda items A through E. Council, what's your pleasure?
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Carter.
I move to approve consent agenda alpha through echo.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Carter and a second by Mr. McDougall with the phonetic or military alphabet. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We are on to our item 6A, which is our operating, it's a public hearing on the 2024 operating budget. And I'm going to have Mr. Steffen come up, and this is, we did receive one public comment from Mr. Wilkerson. It's been added to the record. And I think we will plan on keeping the public hearing open. Again, if you have comments on the budget, you can submit those to the city clerk or to the finance department. But we will plan on keeping the public hearing open. And anything to add to that, Mr. Steffen?
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, members of the audience. Not at this time. I'll come back up later and go through the budget information.
Okay, yeah, because later on we're going to talk about the budget, and if council so desires, we can always go back and close the public hearing. All right, so we are going to move on. So the public hearing will remain open. Please continue to submit your comments. Next item is 7A. This is Community Action of Skagit County. This is a presentation, and Mr. Coleman's going to introduce our guest.
Good evening. Just a very brief introduction. We have Sandy Finney with the Community Action of Skagit County here to talk about their outreach center in Anacortes, and maybe some other fun stuff.
Well, come on up and welcome back. And yes, I saw The Office, so
Okay.
I'm sure we're going to talk about that.
Yes, we will be talking about that. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Sandy Finney. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Community Action of Skagit County. For those who are new here or don't know, our mission is to stabilize lives and equip people to reach their goals and build a more equitable Skagit County. I'm going to have a pretty short presentation today, primarily focused on just a quick update of our Anacortes Resource Center and have a chance to answer any questions you may have. I'm hoping that my colleagues will be setting up a much longer presentation later, maybe early in 2024, to be talking about our impact report and a much more comprehensive view of everything Community Action is doing. And I'll include in that also a more detailed demographic and data overview of what's happening here in Anacortes as well. I wanted to start just with some basic information. We did officially open our Anacortes Resource Center on October 16th, which was very exciting. And again, with the support of the city of Anacortes, and thank you very much for your support in 2023. It rolled out more slowly than we had hoped because of all the challenges we've talked about, but we did get it open, and it became busy very immediately, primarily because that was about the time that energy and utility assistance opened for seniors. And so it was really helpful to be able to have somebody here in a place where seniors could come and drop off their paperwork. It didn't go incredibly smoothly. It was a challenge. We had just opened up, but we got it done, and we're excited to be here, and we're working out some of the kinks with regard to making sure that we've got appropriate coverage here in Anacortes to serve people. And we're excited that it's open. I did also want to add that our Energy and Utility Assistance Department did experience a record number of households that they've served in the county during both October and November. So I haven't looked at the numbers yet, but I assume that also means a record number of people in Anacortes as well. Our resource coordinator here in Anacortes, Gina, one success story she said is just, she didn't want to give details, but she did want to say that they were very happy to be able to complete a coordinated entry housing intake with somebody coordinating with multiple agencies to make sure this person got served. I don't want to give more details than that, but that's important. She also said one of the things that they're seeing is that there's a very urgent need to support seniors, and there's a lot of seniors coming in for resources. And so what they've been doing is they've put together a list of all food resources in Anacortes to make sure to give to people. It's a 2-page list of resources where people, especially seniors, can find food. There's also another handout that we have specifically focused on our senior and disabled volunteer services to make sure that anybody who's interested can get connected with that program and get set up to receive various services from our senior program, including a food box, including help with yard work, including transportation to medical services and things like that. So that's one of the things that is happening right now. Another thing that's a piece of good news I just found out a couple days ago is that we now have 5 volunteer drivers just in Anacortes, which I'm very excited about because that means that one of our next steps is to be, and we've just hired a mobility and senior services manager who just started on Friday. So we're excited to set her up with talking with Island Health to hopefully set up a partnership and maybe make sure we can get seniors connected with some transportation, especially to medical services. Some other opportunities for improvement include getting our critical needs vouchers up and running so we can support people with more emergency vouchers here in Anacortes. Having volunteers to help out at our front desk when the office is open to the public. We're now set up to be able to start doing that and training up some volunteers. And also setting up a rotation of our other departments coming to the Anacortes Resource Center so we can increase the variety of services we're offering, which will be happening shortly. One of the things we're about to do is set up a resource center alignment committee, which will be focused on setting up a streamlined approach so that we can ensure better access to services, as well as services to clients, as well as improved consistency of customer service across all 4 of our resource centers in Burlington, Mount Vernon, Concrete, and Anacortes to make sure that all of our staff are working together to make sure we have the best customer service possible and that all of our services are accessible from wherever people want to access them. So those are the big points that I wanted to cover in terms of success stories. And I did want to say we are requesting $60,000 for support for the 2024 calendar year, and we appreciate your consideration of that request. Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions before? All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Oh, did you,
That's one
Ms.
question.
Cleland?
I didn't, so I should probably have known this, but I didn't realize that you take volunteers to help with driving and then also front desk. What's the best way if there's folks in town that would like to get involved with volunteering, how best to go about doing that?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, the best way to go is if you go onto our website, which is communityactionskagit.org. If you go over to what am I looking for, it'll say volunteer opportunities. You can go to volunteer opportunities, and there's an email there which reaches our volunteer coordinator, who would then begin the process of intake. And so we have an intake and a background check and standard things for a volunteer intake. And then they would be referred to the program supervisor who would do the training. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so
Good
one more.
question. Yeah.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you I know you've been involved on a lot of Zoom calls with all of us for the Housing Affordability and Community Services Committee, among other colleagues of yours. So it's really wonderful to get a brief update, and I look forward to the 2024 update. But I'm really pleased with the work that's being done so far in our first year together. And that, we hear a lot of rumblings that there's a lot of need for seniors, but it's from the senior center we've heard that, but to have this as an additional resource is really important. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. Yeah, and that budget request, it is in the staff presented budget to council. They should find it in there. All right. All right, next up is item 7B, Ordinance 4065. This is updating Title 13, Division 4 of the Anacortes Municipal Code to eliminate the Ambulance Service Fund. This is a discussion item with possible action. Mr. Steffen, you're up again.
Good evening. Yes. So the first ordinance is pretty straightforward. Council's established the Fund 110, which is the Ambulance Service Fund, back when we started that, I don't want to say business, but service. And what we are doing now is consolidating that into the general fund. The main reason that is not a problem is that the fee structure and agreement with the county has changed, so we're no longer separating those by a separate fund. We will still have accounts in the general fund to indicate ambulance costs versus fire costs, but some things are commingled, and then the balance sheets, for example, are mixed together as well, so we are eliminating some of that structure. But otherwise, happy to answer any questions related to this. I think we've discussed it in Finance Committee.
All right, any questions? And of course, this action is independent of the overall budget if you want to take a stab at it, but questions for Mr. Steffen? Maybe a motion then?
Yeah, Mayor Miller.
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Yeah, we've spoken a bit about it, or a number of times about it on the Public Safety Committee. And I think it's just kind of a cleaning up of additional funds that don't necessarily need to be all listed out. So in that case, I recommend to approve Ordinance 4065 to update code and remove the need for a separate ambulance fund.
Second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Cleland McGrath, a second by Ms. Hubick. Any additional, to approve Ordinance 4065, any additional discussion? Mr. Franciak, take the vote, please.
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Yes.
Mr. McDougall.
Yes.
Ms. Hubick.
Yes.
Mr. Carter.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thanks. Next up is item 7C, and companion item is 7D, ordinance 4064, 2024 operating budget. This is a discussion item with possible action, and also the 4066 is the 2024 to 2029 capital facilities plan. Also discussion and possible action. And just the one thing before I turn it back over to Mr. Steffen, that I'm really proud of the staff for the first time, certainly in my time as an elected in Anacortes, so now coming up on 10 years, to have a budget book available for council and public review. So great job having that there. Again, we're trying OpenGov, but we're trying to be as transparent as possible in the budget, and having that out for your perusal, I think, is a great thing. So I think I talked enough to give you time to set up your slideshow, maybe. Oh, but
I think so. I believe I'm supposed to share the screen.
Yeah.
And hopefully, Ms. Hubick, can you see that?
Can you see it, Ms.
Absolutely. That
Okay.
looks fantastic. Thank
Great.
you.
Excellent. So I've put together a brief slideshow highlighting the different elements of the budget, specifically, or including specifically some of the things that council has discussed, either here in council or at the committee level, and also questions you've submitted to staff. Feel free to ask questions throughout. We'll touch the budget, CFP, just an overview since the CFP ordinance is adopted along with the budget, and then just talking about that Fund 110 combination, which I guess we've already covered. The budget overall includes 238 FTE. That equates to 23 million in salaries and 10 million in benefits. This includes 2 new positions, one in the legal department and one in the public works department, as well as the 8 fire and 5 police positions that were approved through the levy process. I have linked to these reports on here, and I apologize for this presentation not being prepared ahead of time for the packet, but it will be published after the fact. The FTE report is, it just shows the FTEs. You can look at positions by department, and I will say that it's sometimes confusing to review because there are 2 ways to look at an FTE count. For the finance department, for example, we have 8 staff members that work in the finance department, but their FTE is split into the different funds. And so depending on how you're reviewing the report, the dollars don't land in the finance department in the general fund, because the utility funds pay for the cashier, for example, who is 80% of her time receiving in utility payments. And so the utility funds are paying for that. The budget revenue, which we've discussed previously, is highlighted here, 8.3 million in property tax, 5.4 million in sales tax. The graph here is from OpenGov, and most of these things I'm talking about, there are different views to look at on our public website that you can see and look in the detail as to where this money goes or where this money comes from. This is the distribution of property tax. Fund balances was brought up as a question in one of the council meetings. So currently, this is the fund balance list for basically our cash balances. And so fund balance is one of those things too, which could be understood in 2 different ways. When we're talking budget, we're basically talking the amount of money that we have to spend for the next budget. Overall, if you're looking at our annual report, fund balance is how much we have left over after you take our cash minus our liabilities. But you also add in, depending on which fund, you're adding in our assets, and you're also adding our long-term receivables, and that the remainder is the fund balance. But for budget purposes, this is how much money we have, and you'll see some of these are negative, like this capital parks improvement, and that's merely a timing issue because we have not transferred the money into that fund for the project. This one is the skate park, for example. We've been paying for that, but we haven't moved the money into that fund yet. This is our utility revenues graph, just to show 23 budget, 24 budget. We have a slight decrease in utilities, and that comes from the a reduction of capital. So the capital contributions are in twofold. One is they are revenues from our contractual customers based on our planned capital projects. So we have less capital projects planned in the future. And then also a slight decrease in our budgeting for revenues of capital facilities charges, and which are like a payment of a water hookup fee or a sewer hookup fee, because we're projecting less new construction, new single-family residence construction. We do have a slight increase budgeted for water sales, sewer, solid waste, because those rates are increasing based on CPI. I think I've highlighted here. So water and solid waste are going up by 4.79, which is the CPI from October to October, based on our unified fee schedule we've had in place for years. And then the sewer rate, this is the last year after our sewer rate study of a 5-year implementation of new rates, the 3.5% increase for residential. We have discussed, and staff will recommend over this next year at various different times, we should look at these rates. For various reasons, we'll do a rate analysis. So the water fund, for example, we're putting together our water system plan, after which we'll have a better idea over the next long-term plan for capital, and then we'll be able to look at the rates in more detail. Solid waste, as you know, the county has increased our tipping fees, which is a significant change, and we'll also be looking at the solid waste rates. And then for water, it's been more than 6 years since we've done a rate study, and it would be something that we would do. Equipment rental, this is our Fund 501. It's basically the fund that owns all of the city fleet and then rents that fleet out to the departments. It's a system which allows us to spread out the cost of a vehicle over time and more evenly pay for its use. The two things on this slide, these are the balances within each of those essentially departments or segments of departments. This is the amount of money that they've set aside for future vehicle purchases. The replacement charges is what those are called. For the general fund, I should say the governmental funds, which I apologize isn't clear on my slide here, is funded at 50%, which means if it costs $100 a month for this vehicle, we're only saving $50, right? Or it's more like thousands for the year. And the utilities are funded at 100% because the funding source is more steady and increases quickly, or increases with inflation, I should say. So what that means is that for fire equipment, for example, we're not saving enough each year in order to pay for the equipment when it comes time to replace it, which means this year our budget is lower because of that, but in the future, when it comes time to replace the equipment, we're going to have to come up with funding source other than what we've set aside to replace it. The Guaymas Channel Trail was talked about, and $400,000 for the EIS is now in the budget. It's in Fund 108. And we have new information from...
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Is it okay if I interrupt?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, go ahead.
So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I kind of went through the packet, right, and looked at your line items because it was an amazing achievement to have gotten this to us months in advance of previous years. But speaking of the EIS for $400,000, I'm kind of curious as to why it's under Parks and Recreation for a long-term loan and an interfund loan for it. So can you just explain what that's all about?
Yes. So last week on Wednesday, when we finalized this packet, the funding source was unknown for 2024, but thanks to our Public Works Director, we were able to pretty much secure funding for 2024 from the state. And so my slide here has a more updated version, which I will correct in the packet this week for next week's budget book.
Yeah, and I'll chime in a little bit on that. Obviously, it was a little bit of good news. We've talked about this one before, whether, we were anticipating WashDOT giving us money and we thought it was coming, and then they said 27. Right now, based on the information that we have, they're able to move that up in 2024. It's not 100%, confident. It's as confident as we're counting on FEMA money, I guess, coming in, and so that's the plan for that funding source.
So because it has to be balanced, does that mean when the EIS has been added, we are not depending on, are we depending on it come from the FEMA money, or are we in this budget?
Oh, I apologize for confusing those two. It's not, it doesn't have anything to do with the FEMA. I
Right.
was using that as an example
Sure.
of how FEMA is a reimbursable,
Okay.
as a reimbursable expense.
Well, I guess my question is, I shouldn't have said FEMA. Do we feel $400,000 request by council to have that EIS done next year is a pretty huge amount of money to rework the budget for. So this budget, does it reflect the hope that we receive funds from DOT, or have we modified the budget if we don't have, has it been modified that we're using general funds to do the EIS? Can I have
Yes,
clarity
okay.
on that?
So the budget as presented in the budget book has a $400,000 expense line for the EIS, which is in Fund 108. 108 does not have any specific revenue sources, and so the funding source is an interfund loan, which basically gives us time over the next 5 years to fund that with whatever source we come up with, which, for example, to bring into the FEMA discussion, right, it's easiest and best practice to use that money to purchase equipment. So if the Parks Department is buying equipment over the next 5 years, which equates to $400,000, the FEMA money will be spent for that. And then because there's no spending for that equipment, then that money could be used for this, for example. That would be one method of doing that. But in order to get it into the budget, the funding source was an interfund loan, which then can be worked in future periods to figure out what exactly the funding source is.
So as of now, it's not paid for. We're taking an interfund loan.
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yeah, it's a good point. It was a big number that we wanted to have in the 2024 budget. We pulled it out because we didn't think we were going to get the funds, but we think we're getting the funds, and we'll put it back.
The community center was mentioned as well, which was initially in the CFP. It has been removed from the CFP, and this is just in here to clarify that. And as Councilmember Walters mentioned, eventually the city does plan to take that facility over, which would be a budget discussion, a management discussion, an in-depth review on what that would mean for the city. The Downtown Alliance projects were mentioned as well. So these are two projects that are in the CFP, and before now, and during that discussion, they weren't in 2024, but we have moved them to 2024. So they are in the 2024 CFP and the 2024 budget numbers. That FEMA money that we mentioned. At this point, it looks like approximately $4 million that is coming in from FEMA. We don't have that money yet. It's on a reimbursement basis, but at this time, we plan to use that for police cars and the ladder truck, and more uses of that can come to future purposes. It can also be used for property purchases, and as mentioned, it would offset general fund expenses, but it's definitely recommended that we would not use that for like ongoing expenses. It'd be something that would be a one-time purchase, or to kind of grow our fleet, or to purchase property, and so forth.
And there's a time on that, but I can't remember how many years we have. Depends on what the date of the disaster was. So, but I know it's not all 2024.
Also, as one of your questions was talking about the road fund, or the overlay funding. This is an overview since the resolution was in place, requesting that we spend 1.8 million a year. As you can see, from 2019 to 2023, we've spent just shy of $1 million less than what we had planned to spend for various reasons. I will mention that this year we have not only spent what kind of a makeup amount from the previous year, but also the spending that we're doing is going further, because we have an in-house paving machine now. We're doing more work in-house, which is making our money go further as far as pavement, miles-wise of pavement. So we will be creating a construction fund in 2024. This is independent of the budget, but just by setting aside the money in a different fund, we'll be able to keep track of this difference between what was asked of us to do and what we've actually done, dollars-wise. This is the CFP overview. Just for slide purposes, I've put in the 2024's capital spend, or the portion of the budget that is capital for 2024 by fund. All these numbers that I've got here are coming off of the OpenGov website, so if you're using that, or if you need help, council, audience, feel free to get a hold of me, and I'm happy to show you where these numbers are. They're also in the full council packet, the budget. Fund 1 consolidation, we already discussed that, and you've already moved forward, so thank you. I'll mention on this that because we were building the budget prior to the decision to commingle these two, in the budget package, you will still see Fund 110, the number 110 as the fund number. So, but we do have what we call a crosswalk spreadsheet that shows one account and then the new account that merges those two, and it's just a matter of the time it takes to do that, to put it into the budget. But the budget ordinance does not have a Fund 110. The dollar amounts from 110 are included in the general fund number. I'm happy to answer any questions. As I mentioned, my information is here. Please reach out if you would like more information, or if there's something I can do to correct anything.
Thank you. Yeah, the big thing is, of course, we wanted to capture all of council's input, and hopefully we've done that. But questions, any additional questions?
Mayor Miller.
Mr. McDougall.
Just had a quick question on the ER&R, the 50% funding. Basically, the way the math of that works, let's say we purchase a vehicle that has a 10-year lifespan, or a 10-year usable lifespan for us. Does that mean essentially after that 10 years, the replacement fund will have essentially 50% of the purchase price built up, or 50% like of the estimated future purchase price?
Yeah, we'll have saved 50% of the estimated future purchase price.
Okay, so we do build in kind of a, I guess, an inflationary, I guess, factor there.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
That's our fleet manager's best guess at what that vehicle will cost in the end of its useful life.
Great. Okay, cool. And I also wanted to make a quick comment and thank you very much, you and the entire finance staff. And I'm on the finance committee. We've been through a bunch of these numbers just in committee as well. And I think the team did a great job of like targeting, especially like around sales tax revenues, where basically they took a really conservative approach because there's a lot of uncertainty in the economy. So the budget is built around like a conservative sales tax revenue number. Also, sometimes we get comments about basically the size of our budget compared to comp cities. Like our budget is significantly larger, our headcount is larger. And the big reason for that is because we run a major water utility. We supply water to the refineries, to Oak Harbor, to LaConner. And I forget exactly what the headcount number is that is basically that, but that there's a large chunk of our headcount where their salaries are actually paid by those wholesale customers of the water utility as well. So a large chunk of the budget is because we are a service provider to other communities, essentially. So, thank you.
56,000 water customers. So yeah, thanks for that. Ms. Cleland McGrath, did you have?
I just had a couple questions on the operating budget. So page 55, under general fund, judicial, municipal court, salary and wages. I was just curious, under the description it says remove half full-time FTE court clerk from draft, wait and see impact on 2024. I just was curious if you could share any more information about that.
Oh yeah, I think we know that one. Ms. Shu.
Council, thank you. When we were originally looking at the draft budget, these are the notes that we made kind of as internal items as we're evaluating the continued effect of the Blake fix. We are evaluating the number of cases that are coming through the municipal court. And so we're going to, the decision was made rather than to build another court clerk into the budget that the decision was made is let's wait and see the impact before we bring that forward.
Any other questions?
Ms.
Sorry.
Okay.
So
No,
I didn't mean to cut you off. So you had more
I'm
questions.
gonna skip. I just kind of highlighted some stuff I had questions about. So then page 57, we had our HR meeting, and it has 20,000 for DEI anti-harassment training, and I think we can change that to 10 to 10. Is that correct?
Yes, and we had some good news that came forth this past week with a consultant that we're planning to work with that reduces the amount necessary to be able to provide very good training in person for our supervisors in 2024, in addition to what we're already doing for all of our staff. So yes, $10,000 back to the coffers.
You have more?
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
And then page 59, another just kind of clarifying, just so I have it in my head, is for economic development under planning and community development, professional services, we've got 35,000 proposed, 10,000 for EDASC, other downtown economic development initiatives. Can you just share what those that $25,000 will go to?
Let's see, who's got that one? That Mr. Coleman, is that yours? I know the EDASC one is. I know we've changed that number.
I'm going to restate the question.
Yeah, if you want to restate that one.
All right, Mr. Coleman, page 59. It says that for professional services, there's 35,000 set aside. In previous years, it's been like 20,000 or 15,000 or 32,000. I was just curious, there's 10,000 for EDASC, and then what are the other downtown economic development initiatives? Is that our economic development committee monies?
So we have, I think
that.
there's 10,000 for EDASC, and then I want to say 20,000 for the economic development strategic plan, to either 10 or 20, I can't remember, and 35,000 for the land capacity analysis.
Okay, so that would make sense. So 10,000, then 20,000 for the Economic Development Committee's project, I didn't see where the land capacity analysis was going to be, and it's just my first day looking at it, so I'm sorry if I missed
so this
it.
is this is the total 35,000. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you could go back to, if you can go back to what you were just on there, line item that you, yeah, it. So the other downtown economic development initiatives are the downtown lights, the Christmas decorations that just went up is part of that. And yeah, and then I thought it said in here the economic.
Yeah, I hate to ask an open gov question, but is there any chance you can expand that line there?
No, that's all
No,
there is.
okay.
Yeah, so this is, so just so you see what I'm doing, this is the OpenGov online report, but Councilmember McClellan-McGrath is looking at the budget book, which is basically all of these lines exported onto paper. So I believe that this is the note for this specific line. And so if we wanted to look at the counts, like the lines around it, I suppose what we would have to do is go to the Planning and Community Department. I can clear this and then go to department. And by searching it this way, it's going to show all of the planning lines, and these are all the notes that we have in the planning budget.
Well, and I don't think we're going to probably approve it today, so maybe for next week we can
So
have a little
that's
bit
where
better understanding.
Yeah,
This
okay.
other line is where the land capacity analysis and the downtown parking plan that was requested a couple years ago. Still doesn't specify which one. I think that other line is that economic development strategic plan is in there.
That
the
would be my
numbers match
guess
up.
as well. But if we thought you were going to approve the budget tonight, we'd go dig, we'll drill down. All right, more?
Yep.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, so page 61, general fund, fiber, other improvements. It may just be that it was a working note that doesn't have any bearing. It says that there's requests for 9 million, 5 million, 2 million, and then 2024 has 0, and there's a note saying includes 450,000 in technician and outside labor costs.
And I
Ms.
believe
Shu? Yeah, no, go ahead.
Sorry. I believe what you're looking at is the salaries section. And so a portion of the fiber technician's time is capitalized, so it goes against the capital budget because they're actually building the network. And so we realized that we overestimated that last year, and so we have reduced that this year. And I believe it's $450,000 that is going to be capitalized. I don't have it right in front of me, I'm sorry.
You can go ahead. Mr. McDougall.
So, yeah, some of the work that doesn't get capitalized is like kind of ongoing maintenance, like if they have to do a disconnect for somebody who's moved, stuff like that, right?
Yes, so the time that maybe they're assisting other departments, that they're doing something that's not directly related to installation or construction of the network, that goes towards the general fund. But we've looked at that over several years and identified what we think is the appropriate amount of time that dollars that go to the capitalization of the project.
Yeah, we're not trying to make it more complicated, but it's just trying to allocate time for fiber staff when they're actually building the system, and this is for the public. I know most council knows this. Building the system versus actually, kind of maintaining it and still doing the final hookups, which is going to be part of the budget as long as we have fiber going on. But the main capital part will eventually be completed, and as you all know, that's the plan is to wrap that up next year into some sort of long-term financing plan. All right, Ms. Cleland.
Yep.
I think you have more.
Page 65. Sorry, it's so much easier using this the book. So thank you so much for doing it. Like, I can click around, but it doesn't all come together as well as this does. So I appreciate it. So page 65, and it's really just, we had a request, I think it was last week, about the senior center administrative assistant being 4 days a week, 32 hours versus 40, and just kind of curious if we had landed on the budget, one or the other.
Well, I heard, oh, you got this one. You
Yes,
heard
I
from council.
apologize. That should have been in my slideshow. That has been increased to a full-time position. And that it won't show as a new position. It's an increase in the FTE, so the dollar amount for that position is just higher budgeted wise.
Yeah, we think we heard from council on that one. That's where you wanted to go. All right, I know you have more. You're only on page 65. Ms. Cleveland? No?
I can wait until we're on the capital facilities plan.
Okay. Mr. Carter, Mr. McDougall, Ms. Ubik. So the silence I'm hearing is we've captured all the big ticket items, and the goal will of course be that staff's going to come back next week and asking you all to approve the 2024 operating budget. So with that, we'll move on to the next item, and again so if you got any questions for that, that's where we're going to try to have it all ready to go. So ready to move on to the capital budget? Ordinance 4066, the 2024-2029 capital facilities plan. Ms. Cleveland, I think you're ready to go. Mr. Carter, Mr. McDougall, Ms. Ubik, Ms. Cleveland McGrath.
So I was looking, again, I appreciate the budget book because it's just easier. Since we are doing an EIS for the Guaymas Channel Trail, I missed seeing anywhere that is in the capital facilities plan. I saw the reference to the Guaymas Channel Trail Phase 3 Shannon Point, but is that interchangeable for the identifying?
You're going to take it? Because I might be able to answer. Go ahead.
The EIS 400,000 is only in the operating budget. It is not added to the capital facilities plan.
But don't we need it to access grants? Don't we need to add that to the capital facilities plan?
There was a lot of debate about whether plans are included as part of the capital facilities budget, but maybe Mr. Coleman, you want to take a shot at that one? Put you on the spot.
We had received a message from the council that they didn't want plans to be in the CFP, so that's how we've been operating, is to remove anything that talks about a plan in the CFP and move that into the appropriate budget lines.
Right. To answer your main question, I don't think it would impact our ability to receive grants.
No, as long as we identify it in the budget.
I guess this is such a large project. I mean, I'm inclined to put it in the capital facilities plan because it's something that we've all run on. Many election or campaigns have been about the fact that we want to have this connection from the ferry terminal to downtown Anacortes. There's a debate about going from the ferry terminal to Washington Park and what that'll look like. But I mean, I'd hear from the rest of the council. If I'm the only one thinking that it needs to go back in the capital facilities plan, I guess I might have not kind of comprehended what those discussions were. But it sure seems like it's a big enough project that we need to have everyone on board. If we're going to spend $400,000 for an EIS, seems like it's worthy of a page. And since we've already we've got the Tommy Thompson Trail, it seems, yeah. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on that.
So in the capital facilities plan is the Shannon Point, because that's physical making things, making a capital project, whereas the plans. But over to council, I mean,
Yeah, Mayor Miller.
Mr. Carter.
So I thought we had a discussion about it a while ago on why it was coming off, and which made sense, but I'm not opposed to having it on there, so.
Mr. McDougall?
Yeah, I'm looking through the line items to see if there's like a comparable entry. Because yeah, it's a permit essentially, right? Or it's a study that allocates a permit, but it is a large ticket item. Is there, and I think she was looking for confirmation, if it's not in the capital facilities plan, but it is in the budget, like we're not constrained. Like if, I guess DOT will still allocate the funds, even if it's not in the CFP.
So we've identified it in our comprehensive plan and our parks element, and I think possibly our land use element and transportation element, the need for the Guimas Channel Trail. So it's well identified in the comp plan as far as will we have trouble acquiring money for an EIS as part of that, just because it's not in the CFP. I don't know the answer to that question, to be honest with you. It does strike odd to be a plan and a facilities element, so I would feel hard pressed to think that state agencies would require you to do it that way. As we're doing our capital facilities planning, as we're doing our comp planning, we could definitely put belt and suspenders on it and say, that we seek EIS money to do an EIS.
Ms. Ubik, you want to weigh in on this one?
I was just going to point out basically exactly what's already been said with the planning study for the Tommy Thompson Trestle. It's in the capital facilities plan for $350,000. So it feels like the dollar amount is similar. The terms of service and what it's meant to do are similar. So I would be fine with putting it back in as long as we remembered to take it out of the other one.
Yeah, certainly I don't want to miss any opportunities to get grants. We'll put it wherever we, think it needs to be, because I think that's what I'm hearing from council is Mr. McDougall.
Yeah, I found what Ms. Ubik was referring to, that, yeah, the Tommy Thompson Trestle basically planning study is in there. So I think that probably is a good comp for an EIS. I'll put it in.
All right. So it sounds like I have the majority of the folks that are here. We can put it back in. Back in the CFP.
You're looking at me, and I have no preference whether it's the CFP or the budget. Whatever's going to work best for the council. We were just following the council wishes as we understood them.
All right. Good discussion. Any other? I'm sure we got more. All right. Well, I did hear council's not ready to adopt it, and we are kind of light on the quorum. But if you got any other, please bring them to my attention, to finance, to staff as soon as possible. And we're hoping to bring the budget back for adoption on Monday, the 11th. Ms. Cleland.
So the only other thing that I know there has been some discussion at previous meetings is having, and you touched on it a little bit, Mr. Steffen, was the overall list of FTE positions. Is that going to be provided, or have we given any thought to what that would look like? I know we've got the org chart, but just the number, and I know that you can't, some of them are budgeted or funded using a variety of different departments, but are we going to have a list of FTEs for each department, not just a high level? Has there been any thought given to that?
Yes, so as you mentioned, the org charts are in the budget book. I'll add an additional page that summarizes the total FTEs and then FTEs by department. similar to what was in my slide. I'll add that to the budget book, which will be published on Wednesday.
Mayor Miller,
Ms. Hubick.
I would like to ask for one bit of clarification. So one of the things that we've done in the capital budget facilities is rank things based on priority, but I don't see, and I apologize if I've missed it, I don't see anywhere that tells you what priority means what. So it would be nice to have that printed somewhere to where we have everything in one place so that if any one of the community members is reading this, they understand the difference between a 1 and a 5.
That's a great question, because that's OpenGov gave us. That's the one thing OpenGov gave us, is the opportunity to experiment with using the priority. So priority legend. If Mr. Steffen can remember the legend, I bet he can.
I actually can't remember at the moment.
Okay.
But I do have it written down, and I will add that to the CFP. I guess I just missed it in the CFP book.
Yeah. Good question. Thank you. Okay. I think we'll move on, but please, again, let us know if we think there's going to be some issues. Oh, look at that. He pulls it up. That was impressive. So we'll get that in the plan where it makes sense. Okay, moving on to item, and also members of the public, the operating budget is still open for public comment, and we'll plan on closing that next week as well. 7E, Interlocal Agreement 24020, National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, NPDES, Phase 2 Public Education and Outreach. This is a discussion item, possible action, interlocal agreement, and I'm sure Mr. Rayum has this one, and there he is.
I'm right here. Mayor and Council, good evening. Yes, the federal government comes up with great names like the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System for a permit that you're issued. The city's issued a permit to discharge stormwater to natural water bodies, including lakes, ponds, Puget Sound. Actually, it's Salish Sea here, sorry, my bad. So with that comes requirements in the permit. There's some 5 different elements to the permit, one of them in which is education and outreach. We have partnered in past years, and we're re-upping, or we're proposing to re-up our interlocal agreement with the Skagit Conservation District, us and 9 other, actually is it 9? Just about all of the county, all of Skagit County, all the cities that are permitted are all working together, so we have a unified education and outreach program, so that if you're in Mount Vernon or you're here, you're seeing the same kind of outreach messaging around reducing how much pollution we put into stormwater. So a couple examples that we wanted to share are the private stormwater facility maintenance workshop, watershed masters program, Skagit stream team, regional social marketing strategy, backyard conservation programs, stormwater presentations in schools, which are really fun. If you have had the chance, you should check one of those out. Outreach materials and media advertisements, like putting signs on buses, that type of thing, so it's all uniformly communicated. And yeah, so that's all I have for a presentation. If does take council action to enter into an interlocal agreement.
Questions for Mr. Rayum? Action. Council?
Sorry. Did you?
Miss,
Unless you have a question.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. McDougall.
All right, well, with the NPDES being my favorite acronym, I move that the City Council authorize the mayor to execute the interlocal cooperative agreement 24020 STM001 between City of Anacortes and Skagit Conservation District.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. McDougall, second by Mr. Carter to execute the interlocal agreement as presented. Any additional discussion? Mr. Franciak.
Mr. McDougall.
Yes.
Ms. Hubick.
Yes.
Mr. Carter.
Yes.
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, it's interlocal night, and next up is item 7F, which is interlocal agreement. Oh, yes, okay. You confused me because you went over there, but it's still Mr. Aham. Interlocal agreement 306 GIS 001 with Skagit County for digital area photos license. Mr. Aham.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an interlocal agreement with Skagit County. There are 9 different jurisdictions that participate in paying for aerial photography being flown throughout the county. We are one of the 9, and it's $5,531 a year. We fly as a consortium every 2 years so that you have pretty current information. We do fly the aerial photography when the leaves are off deciduous trees so you can see more of the ground. But doing it as a partnership, it saves a lot of money. If we just did it on our own, it would be a lot more. So we do recommend taking this opportunity to save money and keeping our aerial photography up to date in the city. And that is all I have.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Aham? Any motions, perhaps?
Mayor Miller,
Ms. Hubick.
I move that the city council authorize the mayor to execute interlocal cooperative agreement 23306 GIS 001 between the city of Anacortes and Skagit County.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Ms. Hubick and a second by Mr. Carter to approve the interlocal agreement with Skagit County for digital area photos licensing. Any additional discussion? Mr. Franciac.
Ms. Hubick.
Yes.
Mr. Carter.
Yes.
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Yes.
Mr. McDougall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. One more interlocal, item 7G, interlocal agreement 24019 MCT 001 for indigent defense screening services for in-custody clients between county and city. Discussion item, possible action. Ms. Shu.
Mayor, council, members of the audience, I'm pleased tonight to present an interlocal with the Skagit County, specifically with the Office of Assigned Counsel. Right now, when we have an Anacortes resident in custody, or not just an Anacortes resident, somebody charged by the Anacortes Police Department, if they are in custody, there's not an internal screening process to see whether or not they are eligible for public defense. So oftentimes, from the bench, the judge will assign the public defender so that they can hear that case. The Office of Assigned Counsel for Skagit County is in the court every single day and is doing a review of their clients. They have very graciously offered to provide that service to the city for a fee. We're entering into a 2-year agreement with this. The first year, it would be $40 per screening. And then that's only for while they are in custody, and then any further review would happen with our screener who's available outside of the jail system. The nice thing about this is as we continue to monitor the caseload for our public defender, that we're not having people who are not eligible for public defender services being assigned by the bench to have access to the public defender, which then takes up one of the 400 caseload limitations of the year. So tonight I can answer any questions that you have about it, but I would ask for your support of this interlocal. And say thank you to Skagit County for their willingness to help in this way.
Questions for Ms. Shu?
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Carter.
I move the city council authorize the mayor to execute interlocal cooperative agreement 24-019-MCT-001 between the city of Anacortes and Skagit County.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Carter, a second by Ms. Hubick to approve the interlocal as presented between the city of Anacortes and Skagit County. Any additional discussion? Mr. Franciac.
Mr. Carter.
Yes.
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Yes.
Mr. McDougall.
Yes.
Ms. Hubick.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. We're next up is item 7H. No more interlocals. Now we've got a contract award. This is Police Department virtual reality training system. It's a discussion item with possible action. And Chief Floyd is here to present this contract.
Thank you, Mayor Miller, members of council, and members of the audience here tonight. We are requesting the ability to purchase a VR training system for the police department. Members of the Public Safety Committee have had the opportunity to hear and experience this VR training opportunity with several of the demos we had here locally through some of the providers. This capability allows us to train not only more frequently, but in much more realistic scenarios in areas of de-escalation, problem solving, use on force scenarios, and allows the officer to be much more involved in the scenario that's presented, much more than we could recreate through the use of role players, and certainly much less logistically demanding. Out of the 3 companies that we had come out and give presentations, we found the most useful system for the money that we want to spend was a company called Inveris, and they are a leader in VR training technology for law enforcement and public safety in general. There's a couple other departments in the region that also chose this particular vendor, and I think it's because it really does suit the best needs of our staff for that training.
Is that it?
That's
No, it's good. Well, I know council, a number of members of council had the opportunity to experience a number of the different VR systems, and I'm glad you're not recounting any of our tales.
I would also like to add for council that we were planning to purchase this with 0 funds from the general fund. This will be purchased through casino impact funds that we received from the Sonomas tribe that are awarded to us based on the number of call responses that we have related to the casino, and the balance will be paid by private donations that have been sent to the police department over the last several years.
All right, questions for Chief Floyd?
Mayor Miller?
Mr. McDougall?
What was the name of the supplier or the vendor again?
Inveris?
Inveris. My packet says Atlantic Diving Supply.
That's the cooperative purchasing agreement that was used. Yeah, I saw that as well. It does appear a bit confusing, but ADS is a cooperative purchasing agreement that allowed us to pursue the best vendor for this without having to go out to a formal bid process, which would have taken several months and not allowed us to use the casino impact funds for this year.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's a good question.
Mayor Miller,
Ms. Hubick?
could we get an explanation for the general public about what the haptic vest is and what benefit that'll bring to the people that we have doing the VR simulation?
Yeah, Ms. Hubick had the benefit of being present for the majority of our demos. This particular company has a vest that the user would wear, and in this proposal, we're requesting to purchase 2 of them because we have a 2-officer system, which is realistic for training, as most of our calls that involve safety concerns or a minimum of a 2-officer response. This vest allows for the user to receive feedback. So if there was an individual in the VR training system that's going to rush and attack you with a knife, you would actually feel that impact on your person. So it delivers much more training value because the user is getting feedback as far as space and distance, safety requirements. And it was a fairly inexpensive upgrade. So I felt the training value that we gain from it is more than worth the extra money.
Mayor Miller,
Ms. Hubick?
follow-up question if I might.
Yes, of course.
what's the lifespan on these, and how do you think we would replace it when we get ready to go to the end of their life cycle?
So this particular company offers updates periodically, and for minimal cost, we get those updates. They support the hardware upgrades, so there's a warranty if there's anything that's broken. We get that back to them. I've spoken with the company rep. The headset that is due to come with ours is in the process of being updated with a newer, more modern headset. I negotiated to get that newer headset upgraded for free. They're estimating that deployment to be within 2 to 3 months of our receipt of this system. And in exchange for upgrading this for free, we'll give them feedback to their research and development team on what improvements they can make for the newer version. As far as lifespan of the equipment itself, this is newer technology, but we expect it to be easily upwards of 5 years, probably closer to the 10-year range, which is fairly good for anything that's technology-based because technology moves quite rapidly.
All right, any other questions or motions?
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Carter.
I move the City Council authorize the mayor to sign contract 23-303-APD-001.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Carter, a second by Ms. Cleland McGrath to approve the APD contract as presented 23303 APD 001 for $91,914.24. Any additional discussion? Mr. Franciac.
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Yes.
Mr. McDougall.
Yes.
Ms. Hubick.
Yes.
Mr. Carter.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. All right, being no further business before the council, I will adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you very much.